Most people believe life slips away slowly, that wasting time is harmless because there will always be more of it. But the truth is sharper. Life is not wasted in decades, is wasted in mornings, afternoons, and quiet moments of distraction. People waste life, one scroll, one complaint, one delay at a time. And when they finally notice, the years are gone. You've seen it yourself. The man who talks about dreams but never acts. The woman who clings to comfort and avoids growth. The worker who waits for Friday, then waits for retirement, then wonders where it all went. This is not bad luck, it is wasted life. Why does this happen? Because wasting life feels normal. Society even encourages it. Endless entertainment, shallow pleasures, the chase for status, these are sold as happiness. But they drain purpose, and people follow without questioning. They confuse movement with progress, comfort with peace, distraction with living. The cost is invisible in the moment, but enormous over time. Days blur into months, months into years, and suddenly the chance to live fully has passed. Here's the contrast. Some people wake up to this truth. They realize time is the only currency that can never be replaced. They feel the weight of mortality and the urgency to live deliberately. They build habits of clarity, discipline, and meaning. They don't wait for permission. They don't postpone purpose. They squeeze depth out of every day. Their lives may not look extraordinary from the outside, but inside they burn with substance, and they rarely regret. This is the line between those who waste their lives and those who live them. The difference is not intelligence, luck, or talent. It is awareness. The wasted life is unconscious. The lived life is awake. Think about mornings. Most people open their eyes and immediately hand control to the world. They reach for their phone, drown in headlines, lose themselves in noise. Already, they are reacting instead of directing. The day belongs to others, not to them. Multiply that by years, and their life belongs to others too. Contrast that with the few who begin with reflection, gratitude, purpose. They seize the morning, and in doing so, seize the day. Their life is not wasted, it is owned. Consider choices. People waste life because they think choices don't matter. Skipping one workout, wasting one evening, telling one lie, indulging in one comfort, it feels small. But repetition builds character. Every choice compounds into identity. The wasted life is not one dramatic failure. It is 1,000 tiny surrenders. The lived life is not one grand achievement. It is 1,000 quiet victories. And then there's fear. Fear is the silent thief of life. People waste their potential because they fear judgment, fear failure, fear discomfort. They stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, routines that numb them because at least it feels safe. But safety is an illusion. The years are not safe. They vanish. And one day, fear is replaced by regret, the heaviest weight of all. The irony is brutal. People fear the wrong things. They fear embarrassment more than mediocrity. They fear rejection more than stagnation. They fear discomfort more than regret. But the Stoics remind us regret is the true enemy. Death is coming for all of us, but not all of us truly live before it arrives. This is where you must ask yourself, are you living or are you wasting? Because wasting doesn't always look like wasting. It can look busy. It can look comfortable. It can even look successful. But busyness without direction is wasted life. Comfort without growth is wasted life. Success without meaning is wasted life. Pause here and imagine two funerals. At the first, the person lived unconsciously. They chased trends, avoided hardship, entertained themselves into old age. At their funeral, people say they had fun, they had things, but there is always a but. At the second, the person lived deliberately. They faced fear, sought wisdom, embraced discipline, served others. At their funeral, people say they lived. Which one do you want to be? Because here's the unspoken truth. Most people waste their lives because they think they have time. But time is not promised. The future is a concept, not a guarantee. Today is the only real possession you have. Waste it, and you waste life. Live it, and you honor life. So the warning is clear. Do not be one of them. Do not sleepwalk through existence. Do not confuse motion with meaning. Do not wait until regret is the loudest voice in the room. Instead, wake up. Pay attention. Live deliberately, because the clock is ticking, and every tick is a choice, wasted or lived. Why do so many people continue to waste their lives even after they sense something is wrong? It's because distraction feels easier than discipline, and comfort feels safer than growth. The wasted life hides behind small excuses. I'll start tomorrow. It's not the right time. I'm too tired. One excuse becomes a habit, and a habit becomes a destiny. People tell themselves they will change later, but later rarely comes. Later becomes never, and never becomes regret. The Stoics warned against this trap. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Think about that. Life is not too short. Only feels short when you fill it with the wrong things. The hours wasted on envy, gossip, scrolling, arguing, chasing what does not matter, those are the hours that vanish, leaving nothing behind. The hours spent on growth, learning, love, service, those hours expand life. Two people can live the same number of years, but one has lived double, triple, even 10 times more than the other. The difference is not time, it is attention. Contrast again. Picture 2 mornings. In one, a man wakes up and immediately reaches for distraction. He scrolls, complains, rushes, and reacts. The day slips by without direction, and he ends it wondering where the hours went. Multiply that by years, and his whole life looks the same. In the other, a man wakes, breathes, reflects, writes, and acts with purpose. The day unfolds with clarity, and he ends it with peace. Multiply that by years, and his life is not wasted, it is meaningful. The same hours, but a completely different result. The tragedy is that most people don't even realize they are wasting life. It doesn't feel like wasting. It feels normal. Everyone around them is doing the same, complaining, distracting, delaying. So they think it must be fine. But normal is not the same as good. Normal is just common. And if most people waste their lives, then following the crowd guarantees waste. To live deliberately, you must dare to be uncommon. Look at how people spend their days. They work jobs they hate to buy things they don't need, to impress people they don't like. They trade their precious hours for approval, status, and comfort. They complain about the system, about others, about luck, anything but themselves. But blaming others does not stop the clock. Complaining does not bring back wasted years. Only ownership changes destiny. The Stoics taught this. Focus on what you can control, And what you can always control is how you live this moment. Ask yourself, what are you doing with this moment right now? Are you investing it in growth, reflection, courage, love? Or are you letting it slip into the black hole of distraction? This is not a small question, it is the question. Because how you spend this moment is how you spend your life. Fear also chains people to wasted lives. They fear failure, so they never try. They fear judgment, so they never speak. They fear discomfort, so they never grow. Fear convinces them that safety is living, when in reality, safety is slow dying. The Stoics flipped this perspective. They saw discomfort as fuel, failure as teacher, judgment as meaningless. Fear was not a wallet, was a guidepost. They leaned into it, not away from it. And in doing so, they discovered freedom. Another cause of wasted life is the obsession with trivial pleasures. People chase entertainment, indulgence, and distraction as if that is the point of existence. But pleasure without purpose is a trap. It feels good in the moment, but leaves emptiness afterward. It's like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. The Stoics didn't reject pleasure, they simply refused to be slaves to it. They valued joy rooted in virtue, not in consumption. And that joy lasts. Think of the difference. Wasting life feels like shallow highs followed by deep emptiness. Living life feels like steady peace built on meaning. One fades, the other endures. One wastes, the other builds Tao. Consider regret. Regret is the shadow of wasted life. At the end of the road, when death approaches, what do people regret? Not money, not possessions. They regret not living fully. They regret time lost to fear, distraction, and delay. They regret not saying I love you, not taking risks, not becoming who they could have been. That is the cruel punishment of wasted life, reveals itself when it's too late to change. But here's the good news. You are not too late. As long as you are breathing, you can choose differently. You can wake up, pay attention, seize this moment, and live deliberately. You can stop being one of the many who waste their lives and become one of the few who truly live. But you must start now. Not tomorrow, not later now. Because later is the word of wasted lives. Now is the word of lived lives. So here's the challenge. Look at your routines, your habits, your mornings, your evenings. Are they leading you toward meaning or toward waste? Be brutally honest. The Stoics demanded honesty from themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself as if holding a mirror, reminding, correcting, sharpening. You must do the same. If you find waste, cut it. If you find fear, face it. If you find excuses, destroy them. Your life depends on it. Because here is the final truth for this section. You don't get to decide how long you will live, but you get to decide how deeply you will live. Most people waste their lives because they never realize this. Don't be one of them. If you want to understand why most people waste their lives, look at how they define success. For many, success means wealth, fame, approval, or comfort. They spend years climbing ladders placed against the wrong walls. And even if they reach the top, they feel hollow. They discover too late that they sacrificed life for illusions. This is why the Stoics warned against chasing externals. They knew fortune is unstable, reputation is fragile, and pleasure is fleeting. If your happiness depends on what you cannot control, your life will always be wasted in pursuit. Instead, the Stoics defined success as living with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. To them, Virtue was not an abstract ideal, but the only true wealth. Why? Because it cannot be taken from you. Storms can take your house, rulers can take your freedom, illness can take your health, time can take your youth, but no one can take your character. To live with virtue is to live in alignment with your deepest self. That is a life not wasted. Contrast these two definitions. One person builds their life on externals, money, status, approval. When those shift, their identity collapses. Another person builds on virtue. They may lose wealth, reputation, or even comfort, but they remain unbroken. Which life is wasted? Which life endures? Now let's examine time. People waste life because they treat time as if it were infinite. They spend it carelessly, as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But time is the only true currency, and it is disappearing with every breath. Seneca compared time to a precious possession that most people guard the least. Think about it. People protect their money, lock their doors, insure their cars, but they give away their time to anyone and anything. Gossip, pointless arguments, endless scrolling. These thieves steal hours that can never be returned. Imagine carrying a bag of gold coins. Would you toss them to strangers in the street? Would you burn them for fun? Yet that is what people do with their hours. And unlike gold, hours cannot be replaced. Every wasted minute is gone forever. That's why Stoics lived with urgency, not panic, but presence. They knew that to honor time is to honor life. Another reason people waste life is comparison. They measure themselves against others, forgetting that every path is unique. Envy poisons the mind, making people chase what does not belong to them. They want the success of others, the looks of others, the recognition of others. In chasing shadows, they lose themselves. The Stoics taught the opposite. Stay with your own role. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to be distracted by what others were doing, but to focus on the work of being human. When you live in envy, you waste your life imitating others. When you live in virtue, you fulfill your own potential. Let's look deeper at distraction. Modern life is engineered to waste your time. Infinite scrolls, autoplay, notifications, machines designed to steal your attention. And attention is life. Most people surrender it willingly, thinking it is harmless. But what is a life except attention multiplied by years? If you spend your attention on noise, you will look back and see that you never truly lived. The Stoics would see this clearly. Distraction is not entertainment, it is theft. To live well, you must reclaim your attention and guard it as the treasure it is. Fear of judgment is another silent killer. People waste their lives trying to please others. They dress, speak, act, and live according to someone else's script. They fear rejection more than they fear regret. But here's the paradox. No matter what you do, people will judge you. If you play it safe, they will still talk. If you take risks, they will still talk. So why waste life trying to control what cannot be controlled? Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." True freedom begins when you no longer live as a slave to opinions. Consider how many lives are wasted in the pursuit of someday. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll write. Someday I'll start that business. Say those words, take that risk. But someday is a mirage. The desert of time is filled with bones of people who waited for someday. The Stoics knew the only real day is today. They did not reject planning, but they rejected postponing. They acted while they could, because tomorrow is not promised. To waste today in the hope of tomorrow is to waste life itself. The harshest truth is this: most people are not living, they are merely existing. They wake, eat, work, entertain themselves, sleep, repeat. Days blur into decades, and they wonder why life feels empty. This is existence without reflection. The Stoics refused to exist passively. They demanded awareness. Marcus wrote to himself daily, reminding, correcting, focusing. He treated life as a craft to be mastered, not a river to drift in. That is the difference between wasting life and living it. Passivity versus deliberate practice. Now let's turn inward. Ask yourself, where are you wasting your life? In fear, in distraction, in chasing what you cannot control, in waiting for someday. The Stoics would say, face the truth without flinching. Do not cover it with excuses. If you find waste, name it. If you find fear, confront it. Because only by seeing clearly can you live fully. And remember this: to live deliberately does not mean to live without struggle. It means to embrace struggle as part of the path. Wasted lives chase ease. Lived lives chase meaning. And meaning always includes struggle. The Stoics were not spared hardship. They faced exile, poverty, illness, betrayal, even death. But they transformed hardship into strength. That is why their lives echo across centuries, while the wasted lives of their peers are forgotten. So the challenge is simple but severe. Do not wait. Do not compare. Do not surrender your attention. Do not waste today. The clock is moving, and so must you. If you want to know whether your life is being wasted, ask yourself this: what do you stand for? Most people never ask. They drift from day to day, chasing whatever sparkles, avoiding whatever hurts, and surrendering to the momentum of habit. But without a core, without principles, life is scattered. A person without principles is like a ship without a compass. It may sail, but it drifts endlessly, at the mercy of winds and waves. This drifting is not living. It is slow decay disguised as movement. The Stoics were relentless about principles. They chose a small set of values: wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, and lived by them as unshakable pillars. Every choice was measured against them. Does this action make me wiser, more just, more courageous, more disciplined? If not, it was discarded. This discipline gave direction, and direction gave meaning. Without it, life becomes noise. Noise is one of the great dangers of our time. Endless voices tell you who to be, what to buy, what to want. The marketplace thrives on confusion. If you do not define yourself, someone else will define you and profit from it. That is why so many live lives designed by advertisers, trends, and opinions, not by their own judgment. They consume rather than create, obey rather than decide. This is waste on a massive scale. Billions of souls distracted into silence. Another mark of wasted life is obsession with control. People spend years trying to bend the world to their will, controlling people, outcomes, events. Yet the Stoics taught the opposite. Freedom comes from knowing what is not yours to control. You cannot control fortune, others' thoughts, or the turning of seasons. If your peace depends on these, you will always live in turmoil. Instead, focus only on what lies within, your thoughts, choices, actions. Imagine the power in this shift. Someone insults you. Do you waste life by reacting with anger, replaying it in your mind, plotting revenge? Or do you conserve energy, choose calm, and return to your purpose. The first response wastes your life on noise. The second protects your life for what matters. Regret is another silent thief. Many waste the present by living in the past, rehashing mistakes, reliving losses, clinging to what cannot return. But the past is not life. It is memory. The future is not life. It is imagination. The present is all that breathes. Marcus Aurelius said, "Confine yourself to the present. Every moment wasted on past or future is theft from the only reality you possess." This does not mean the past holds no lessons or the future no vision. But lessons and visions are tools, not homes. To live in them is to abandon the only place where life actually happens, here, now. And yet, watch how many waste decades waiting for the right time. They wait until they're older, richer, freer, more confident. But there is no right time, there is only time slipping. To waste it, waiting, is the greatest tragedy. Let's explore comfort. Comfort feels safe, but it rots the soul. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomforts, sleeping on the floor, fasting, exposing themselves to cold, not to suffer pointlessly, but to prove they could endure. Why? Because those who fear discomfort waste their lives avoiding it. They reject challenges, refuse risks, and live small. But those who embrace discomfort grow strong. They live fully because they are not trapped by fear of pain. Look at your own life. Where has comfort trapped you? In routines that no longer inspire, in habits that numb you, in a job that pays but does not grow you. Comfort whispers that you are safe, but safety without growth is slow death. Waste is not always dramatic, often looks like quiet comfort that lasts for white decades. The Stoics also warned against wasting life on anger. Anger feels powerful, but it drains. It enslaves the mind, damages relationships, and wastes energy that could be spent on creation. Seneca wrote an entire essay on anger, calling it temporary madness. Think of how much life has been wasted in arguments, grudges, feuds, years lost in bitterness. A wasted life is often a life consumed by what could have been forgiven. But here lies a paradox. Not all waste looks like waste. Some waste disguises itself as success. People who appear wealthy, powerful, admired it. If their souls are empty, their lives are wasted. External success without internal alignment is like a golden cup filled with poison. The world may envy, but the soul suffers, and the soul always knows. So how do we protect against waste? Begin with clarity. Write down what matters. Strip away noise. Do not assume life is long. Assume it is short. Then practice. Practice gratitude daily, because gratitude turns ordinary hours into treasures. Practice courage, because courage turns fear into growth. Practice justice, because justice turns self-interest into legacy. Practice temperance, because temperance turns chaos into order. These practices are shields against waste. Imagine reaching the end of life. What would you want to say? That you chased every distraction? That you waited for permission? That you lived someone else's script? Or would you want to say, I lived deliberately? I spent my time with awareness. I faced hardship with courage. I did not waste the gift. The choice is not far away, is here, in every small action. Every hour you spend is either investment or waste. You do not control how many hours remain, but you control how you spend this one. And that decision, repeated across years, becomes your life. Waste is not measured in days lost, but in meaning lost. You could live 80 years and waste them all. You could live 30 years and live fully. The difference is not length, but depth. And depth is chosen, moment by moment, through awareness, courage, and virtue. The Stoics challenge us. Live as if today were your last, but plan as if you will live long. Balance urgency with patience, action with reflection, principle with flexibility. In this balance lies the art of life. Fail to master it, and your life will be wasted. Master it, and your life will echo across time, even if the world forgets your name. Because, in the end, the true measure of a life is not applause or fortune, it is whether you lived aligned with truth. If you did, nothing is wasted. Why do most people waste their lives? Not because they set out to. Nobody wakes up and says, "I choose waste today." It happens silently, through habits that feel harmless. The Stoics would say it happens because we fail to notice. Life is wasted by distraction, by unguarded hours, by small compromises that accumulate until decades are gone. Think about how much time slips through screens. The average person spends years of life staring at devices, scrolling, watching, comparing. A minute here, an hour there. None of it seems fatal. But added up, and entire lifetimes dissolve into digital haze. And here's the twist. Most of what we consume does not even matter. It doesn't stay with us. It doesn't build us. It entertains, but then it vanishes, leaving emptiness. That is the quiet tragedy, time spent without depth. The Stoics would never condemn joy, but they would condemn waste. They would ask, does this activity serve your soul? Does it sharpen your mind, strengthen your courage, or deepen your gratitude? If not, why surrender your life to it? Life is too precious to trade for noise. Every trade should be conscious. Every hour should be chosen. Another way lives are wasted is through imitation. People live not their own lives, but copies of others. They pursue careers, lifestyles, and dreams inherited from culture or family, not from self. This imitation feels safe, but it steals individuality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. To imitate blindly is never to begin, yet imitation is tempting. It requires no courage. To live your own way means to risk failure, to invite judgment, to stand apart. That is hard, and so most avoid it. They waste their lives living someone else's script. The Stoics would call this cowardice, not cruelty, but a refusal to claim your own existence. Fear itself is another silent thief. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty. People choose smaller lives because of fear. They decline opportunities, avoid hard conversations, and bury their ambitions. Fear feels protective, but it is expensive. It costs years of potential. The Stoics responded to fear with preparation. They visualized worst-case scenarios to shrink their power. Seneca advised rehearsing poverty, illness, exiles, so that when fear appeared, it had no teeth. If fear wastes life by paralysis, greed wastes life by endless motion. The greedy are never still. They chase more wealth, more status, more recognition. But more is a horizon that never arrives. In chasing it, they sprint through life without ever living it. The Stoics insisted that true wealth is contentment with what is enough. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The man who learns this does not waste his life chasing illusions, Pride also drains life. Pride convinces us we already know, so we stop learning. Pride convinces us we are owed, so we stop serving. Pride convinces us we are superior, so we stop connecting. And what is a life without growth, service, or connection? A shadow. Pride wastes life because it blinds us to humility. And humility is the doorway to truth. Now let's contrast with the alternative, a life not wasted. Imagine a life where each morning begins with reflection. What do I control? What is my duty? What would make today meaningful? Imagine moving through the day with awareness, making choices instead of reacting, protecting time instead of scattering it. Imagine a life measured not by applause, but by integrity. That life is rare, but it is possible. The Stoics remind us that the world is unpredictable. Fortune can take health, wealth, even loved ones. But fortune cannot take your character, your choices, your inner freedom. A life not wasted is one anchored in this truth. The external is fragile, but the internal is invincible. Live from within, and you live fully even when storms rage outside. Consider death. Many waste life by refusing to face it. They live as if they had endless time, postponing dreams, avoiding truth. But death is the ultimate teacher. To meditate on it is not morbid. It is liberating. It sharpens urgency. It clarifies values. It destroys illusion. If you know life is short, you waste less. Marcus Aurelius urged himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. The measure of a life is not length, but alignment. Did you live according to your nature? Did you cultivate virtue? Did you serve beyond yourself? If yes, then whether you had 20 years or 80, nothing is wasted. If no, then even a century is squandered. So ask yourself, are you wasting your life? Are you trading days for distraction, safety, imitation, fear, greed, pride? Or are you guarding your hours, living with awareness, courage, humility, and gratitude? The answer is not in distant years, is in this moment. This moment is your life. If you waste it, you waste all. If you live it, you redeem all. Most people waste their lives because they never choose. They let time choose for them. Don't. Choose deliberately. Choose to live aligned with truth, to embrace discomfort, to act with courage, to love with depth, to forgive quickly, to grow constantly. This choice, repeated daily, creates a life that cannot be wasted, and when the final hour comes, you will not beg for more time. You will not regret the years gone. You will stand calm, grateful, complete because you did not waste the gift. You lived it fully.